Hey David, how are you?
Hey Emery, good to be with you
Good, good.
today.
So I know you're running for the Senate District seat 37. That's going to
Yes,
cover
ma'am.
Ackworth and Kennesaw area. So what were kind of some of your few deciding factors on why you wanted to run?
Well, let me give you a little backdrop of where I've come from and where I am today. I've worked 25 years in the ministry, Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked with children, student athletes, and coaches. My wife has been with me for 17 of those years. Two daughters that grew up in the area. They went to Harrison High School, very involved in sports, very involved in FCA ministry. And so as time has evolved and they've grown up, they've gone out on their own and started their own families. We're getting toward the end of our career in
Right.
FCA. And so we just started asking a couple of years ago, what does God want us to do with our lives? What are we passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my life has always been about working with students.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really concerned about our country and the
Right.
direction that it's headed. Concerned about the country that we're going to leave as an inheritance
Mm-hmm.
to our students
Right.
and to our children and grandchildren. So this Senate seat popped open,
Yeah.
and Mr. Tippins decided he was going to resign and or retire, not resign, but retire. And so after some prayer and thought and consideration and talking to my wife, we're in the race.
Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. So, kind of what would be some of your platform goals when you go into that Senate if you were to win?
Well, for me, there are two big issues. I've got some smaller issues, but two big ones for me are family
Mm-hmm.
and the future of our children.
Right.
So family is big. I've been a family guy for 37 years. The idea of us sharing our children with the systems of the world is very concerning to
Yep.
me. I think families love their children, and children are our most precious commodity. I mean,
Yeah.
as I was raising my girls, I was very involved in their lives, not just on the social scene, but also their education as
Right.
well. And there was a couple of times they'd bring home books that had questionable material in them. And so I got involved and had, pleasant conversation with their teachers, but, I shared my value system, shared my children's value system with them. And so we did, we've had some of those conversations before where we are very much thinking that the future of our children and their education is not headed in a direction that we agree with.
Right. Right.
So family, children, and when we come to the elements of this world that are not necessarily pulling for our children, there's a drug scene that's happened
Right.
in our state. There's also a trafficking scene that is
Yep.
happening in our state, puts our children at risk. There are bad actors in this world
Oh,
that
yeah.
are preying upon our children. And I want to I want to be a part of passing legislation that protects our children, that protects our families from these bad actors.
Right. Yep. We have a very important midterm coming up in 2024, right? And I mean, there's pretty much a deciding factor. I mean, we've seen, failed policy after failed policy the past 2 years. What do you think it's really important, for people to go out there and vote for those, those conservative grassroots candidates?
Well, I am anti-establishment. I am a Republican.
Right.
But before I'm a Republican, I'm a person of principle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think principle needs to be key for a lot of our constituents. And, for many, many years, people would put party above everything.
Right.
And I think that there's a growing movement of people that are tired of politics as usual.
Right.
I think there's a growing movement of people who have been kind of standing on the sideline, watching politics, watching the last election. They're very concerned about our country and where it's headed. So I think there is a group of people like myself who want to be involved and are getting involved to make sure that the course of our country is the course that our founders set for it, and that the course of our country is in favor of our children and not establishment politicians,
Right.
lifelong politicians.
Yep. So, you know, we have a good organization. We were just chatting off screen about the KSU College Republicans. You know, we get, you know, a lot of kids that come through, and, you know, when we first start to talk to them, they're always so scared to come out and be boldly, you know, afraid on campus and doing like what we're doing right here, an interview, or just when we're out tabling and trying to promote, you know, who we are. There's a lot of people who are so scared because they're on a college campus. So what would be your advice to those scared, you know, college conservatives that, you know, are too scared to be boldly, you know, unapologetic on campus?
Yeah, that's you know, that's something I dealt with, you know, was fear, getting into this thing.
Yep.
And then I started looking at my kids, and I realized that whatever fear I had, I needed to get over that and fight on their behalf, because that's what they did for us in the 1700s, is they fought for us so that we would have a free country. And so there's a lot of fear nots in books written, especially the book that I read often called the Bible. And there are fearful things out there, but if you will let the opportunity rise up within you to be involved and count the cost of not being involved, that should override your fear.
Wow, it's really powerful. Yep, I feel the same way. I know, because we've had, you know, my grandparents or grandparents before us, right? They fought in World War II. Then you have parents that fought in Afghanistan. Now it's like, you know, we have our generation. We need to stand up and fight. So I appreciate you for coming out here today, David. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome.